Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Purge discussion video. That's right, we can finally talk about the Purge television show 10 episode event that they're premiering on USA. And before I get into this, I just want to say, if you're not really sure what I do on this channel, I don't like to review things. I don't like to put myself in the position where I'm trying to tell you everything that happened in an episode, or whether or not it reaches any kind of storytelling or production value that we're expecting of whatever they're trying to tell us. I prefer just discussing it, and hopefully, you guys will go into the comment section below and tell me what you think about the episode and what you think about what this whole storytelling process for this franchise is going to be. The reason I want to do it for The Purge when I don't do it for a whole lot of other shows is because, back in 2013 when this movie finally came out, the first one with Ethan Hawke, I would probably be the last one to tell you that, oh man, this is going to become a huge multimedia horror movie franchise that is still probably one of the biggest today, despite the fact that with an awesome premise, every single film, I think, even though they've gotten a little bit better with almost every installment, they just don't seem to ever capture what a lot of people consider is the spirit of the whole idea of what The Purge actually is. And that's really where this television show comes in, and my just God's honest excitement for it. Okay, the one thing I have to say is that James DeMonaco, the main guy, the guy at the freaking helm of all of this stuff that is The Purge, it is his brainchild, notwithstanding all of the legal battles that are going on over this and the fact that he might have actually stolen this idea. But that's for another video, and that's just for another discussion. But anyway, his writing I think is very prominent in this episode, especially probably throughout this entire series. But at the same time, I think it's one of the reasons we needed a television show. He cannot, and I understand why, especially with the success of this franchise, tell one story with one person or one group of people like in the first film and make it interesting. You need to disperse it amongst a lot of different people who might converge, they might not, and we get to see how various people in the United States of America live their life under the Purge holiday. That's really exciting, and that's one of the things that is very apparent at the very beginning of this television event. Is it pretty much plays out like you would imagine the first part of any Purge movie playing out. You get a very quick introduction of all of these characters, and you sort of follow them as they get ready for the Purge and everything. The difference being is now we have time to really go back and understand who these characters are. We get to have flashbacks of who these characters are and what brought them into the situation that they are now, and hopefully get to follow them throughout the next 10 hours or so of television time to understand and know exactly all the decisions that they're going to make. I personally really like that, and it makes me super excited about what we're going to see, because it's not like James DeMonaco's writing in any of the Purge movies was really all that bad. It's just that you can only do so much in 90 minutes, where you allow various things like a picture of a dead child or all this other stuff that kind of indicates, oh, who are these people and what do they believe and all this other stuff. You can't give them an hour's worth of runtime just to dedicate to who they are, what they're thinking, or what happened to them that led them to this situation. That to me is really interesting, and I cannot wait to see what they do with the next couple episodes. With that being said, there's various different things going on in this series right now that I think is interesting, and stuff I really hope that they actually focus on a little bit more in the future. If you watch my channel at all, especially with all the Saw content and everything, I've been a proponent, I've been a huge supporter of Hannah Emily Anderson and her work on Jigsaw. I think her storyline in this television show is probably the most interesting right now, and based on what they did in this episode, I think the creators think that this is the most interesting storyline of what they're doing right now. Yes, you have the whole Miguel situation looking for his sister with the whole cult aspect, even though that cult doesn't seem to stand out in a huge way, considering this is stuff we've seen in almost every single fictionalized idea of what a cult mentality is. It's just now this is happening in The Purge. Heck, American Horror Story did the whole cult story last year, and this is basically what we saw, right? Just people kind of giving in and just being what they are, and this is just the night that they're going to give themselves over to the invisible or the great beyond or whatever they actually decide to, call their great afterlife situation. But now they have Miguel, who is, this girl who's joined the cult, and he's going to go save her. So this is James DeMonico's idea of who this badass person in this series is going to be, and whether or not his looking for his sister is going to converge against like all these other people who are working or doing all this other stuff throughout this series. That would be my guess, is he's going to be the person who comes into contact with everyone and everything else that's going on here. That would be kind of cool and just kind of par for course when it comes to what the Purge is actually about. But I think the series in general, and at least my fan anticipation, is what's happening at the NFFA party and everything going on with Hannah Emily Anderson's character is probably the most exciting thing. And if this episode is anything to go by, I think the creators of it think that this is the most interesting thing to go by as well, especially when they start developing the mythology of the Purge and where it came from, actually introducing this whole concept that I hope they explore a little bit more down the line, that these people like Charles Manson and all these other serial killers or cultists or any of the other things, maybe they can explore that and tie it to what's going on with the whole cult mentality that's going throughout the entire episode, maybe figuring out a way to combine those two mentalities and show that even though the rich and the poor and everyone alike has the same idea of where the Purge came from and what really bubbled up to actually allow this society to do this stuff. But anyway, I think the creators of this television series really think that the NFA party is probably the most interesting thing going on right now, because most people who watch the Purge movies want to see what the rich people are doing and how they actually protect themselves. There's another story going on. I don't really follow it. I don't really care much of what's going on right now, even though it ended with somewhat of a cliffhanger that's going to push us through the rest of this season. We're going to have to wait and see how that all shakes up. There's a woman who's working on Purge night, and personally, I don't really like that, because one of the things they make very clear at the very beginning of the episode is that the foreign markets don't care about the Purge, which I find really hard to believe, considering America's importance in the world and the world market, that most people would probably respect that, even if they don't believe in the whole concept itself, and they would know that, like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do business on Purge night. Maybe we should just allow like these people to do what they do because that's their culture, and then we'll just pick up the next morning and everyone will be totally safe and fine, and there isn't anything to worry about or anything that's going to disrupt a major deal. But maybe they'll explain that later in the future. There's something interesting going on here, but I don't know how it's going to tie to the rest of the series right now, and it's going to be really interesting to see whether or not it's really one of the more interesting things or just one of the afterthoughts of this entire series, considering the whole cult aspect and everything going on and the NFA party. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope everyone is enjoying this television show thus far. I know I am. I can't wait to see what they do with it in the upcoming episodes in this season. And heck, maybe if it's successful for them, maybe they can do a completely new season or a new story. Maybe they can continue this story with the characters that survived this night or something like that. That would be really interesting. On another note, I think it's actually kind of important to talk about is they were telling us about this before this show actually came on, that these characters, or at least some of them, have some connection to the events of the first Purge. And we got to see at least a little inkling of that in this episode, which I think is really interesting. Even though these characters weren't in that movie and they had no connection to it, they're going to actually retcon these people into it and kind of show that Miguel and his sister probably were in Manhattan Island, or at least their parents were, and they were victims of that first Purge, and how that plays into the bigger story or anything happening in the NFA party or anything else that's going on in this series is yet to be unseen. But I really want to see how that actually ends up panning out. And like I said, them playing this whole series out in a matter of 10 hours, allowing us to explore these characters in flashbacks and understand what their motivations are for being out on Purge night or doing what they're doing on Purge night, is to me one of the most exciting things about this, and probably at the end of all of this, regardless of any real qualities, probably the best they could ever do with the Purge concept, considering they have more than 90 minutes to express and tell these stories. So tell me what you think about this series in the comment section below. Like I said, I won't be reviewing these episodes individually. I'll just be discussing them one at a time, and hopefully we can go into the comment section below and share our thoughts and opinions about this series, what they're doing with it, and what we'd like to see in the future based off of any given episode. So I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. It's been real.